This is the moment many of y'all have been waiting for. I think a good drum roll's in order. This is my new 2023 Lowrider ST that I named Waylon. So if you're new here and you just found this YouTube video through YouTube searches, maybe you're looking for Lowrider ST build specs or ideas, we will get into those here in just a second. But to everyone who follows my YouTube videos and is wondering, you know, what happened to my dyno? The last video you posted, you had just celebrated hitting 90,000 miles on that bike. Let's catch up a little bit because a lot has happened since I filmed that video 14 months ago. So I filmed that video last summer. Some of my videos don't exactly post in order, but I officially am not riding the dyno full time anymore. Long story short, just after hitting 90,000 miles on that bike, which I bought brand new in 2015 and had tons of issues with over the years, had a bunch of issues with it on the way to Sturgis. If you watched that live stream, I explained a little bit as to what had kind of been going on with the bike at the time. And ultimately, I just decided that a bike with that high of miles wasn't going to be realistically my main touring bike anymore. It was just costing me way too much money. And I ultimately decided I needed a new bike. So thank you to everyone who purchased one of my 2023 calendars this past winter. There's no way I would have been able to afford this bike if it wasn't for y'all buying those calendars. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. I've had the time of my life this summer. I've already put 12,000 miles on this bike since I bought it 3 months ago, and I've absolutely loved it. And I've just been riding the crap out of it. So that's it. That's the spark noted version of this story. I did buy this bike from my friends at Cowboy Harley-Davidson of Austin. Went in there and told them that I wanted to buy a new bike, and they were like, absolutely, it is time. You earned it. Let's get you on a bike and let's get it built out how you want it. So they did all the work for me. I picked it up as it sits, just like this. So thank you, Nate, for building my bike. I worked there about 13 years ago, and I actually learned to ride at that dealership. So it was really cool getting to kind of bring it home and do this whole bike build with them. Really cool opportunity. And if you're ever looking for a good dealer group to work with on a bike, I would highly suggest it. People there ride, they love motorcycles, and overall, definitely a good experience for sure. So thank you, Cowboy Harley, for dealing with me and for building my bike. I love it. But on that note, let's go ahead and talk about the actual bike, since I know that's what a lot of you are here for. Obviously, I bought this bike because it is a Lowrider ST. Lowrider Sport Touring is what that stands for. And I needed a new touring bike. So my goal was to set this bike up as a touring bike. I didn't want this bike to be painted and be a hot rod show bike. I just wanted it to be functional and reliable. And there is a lot of stuff I did do to this bike. So let's go ahead and dive into the specs. So let's go ahead and just start with the easiest stuff first. Let's just go ahead and start with the engine. One of the reasons that I bought a brand new motorcycle is because I wanted a factory warranty. I used my entire ESP on my dyno with all the issues I had with it, and I definitely took advantage of my factory warranty with my dyno. So having a brand new motorcycle, I didn't want to void that factory warranty right out of the gate. So all I did to this bike was a stage 1, and I used an S&S Stealth air cleaner kit, as well as an HPI 2-in-1 exhaust. And of course, the last piece of that puzzle is the Screamin' Eagle tuner. I am having some issues with that tuner. Not Cowboy's fault. It is a Harley-Davidson Motor Company issue. Long story short, the calibration wasn't perfect for the STs. So while it will take a tune, unfortunately, there's a traction control light and a little red dot that stays on my dash at all times. I've kind of gotten used to it. It's not the end of the world. But I have heard that in the last couple of weeks, apparently the dealerships did get access to a new calibration. So I just need to find time to take it in the dealership and have that put in so that those little lights will go away. But yeah, stock motor, just the Milwaukee 8117, which comes standard in this bike. Honestly, it's plenty of power. I really don't have any interest in doing much motor work to this bike for a while. So yeah, really simple on the engine. So where I did put a lot of my focus on this bike was the rider ergonomics. I knew I'd be doing 500 plus mile days on this bike pretty frequently. I've already completed a 1K in a day on this bike, actually a couple of them. So I really wanted to make sure that this bike was set up perfectly for me. So of course I had to do the Kraus Bully ST 10-inch Pro Kit. I love this setup. It is perfect for me. The 10-inch pullbacks do give me a little bit more room for my little T-Rex arms. And I did go with a Lepera kickflip up front seat. When I first got the bike, this seat was not actually in production yet. And then Lepera hit me up and said, hey, we want you to test out the seat. We think it'd be perfect for you. And turns out they were right, and it is. This is such a good thing for shorter riders like myself. I've always had issues, even with pullbacks, reaching my handlebars, and this seat basically pushes you 2 inches further forward than the standard kickflip does, and it's made a world of a difference for me. I love this seat. I love this handlebar setup. The risers are the perfect height for me personally. Overall, I'm really, really happy with those two things. But back to the handlebars, I also accessorized it a little bit just because I can't help myself. And I went with the Arlen Ness mini stalker mirrors as well as Memphis Shades handguards because I don't like rocks hitting my hands, and once it's cold out, I will love having these. Went ahead and blacked out the levers and got the Harley-Davidson black levers, and went with some knurled grips from Arlen Ness. They do have these bronze end caps here to kind of match the wheels and the exhaust, which I also love. And of course, the foot pegs as well are Arlen Ness with those bronze end caps. I did get some SDC floorboards, which I will be putting on soon because I did run little kind of floorboards on my Dyna and I loved them. So that's definitely something that I'll be upgrading here shortly. Just been too busy riding. I haven't had time to put them on. So as far as the rider triangle goes and getting this bike set up perfectly for me, that is it. But as far as rider comfort goes, I did switch out the stock windshield for the Clockwork 6-inch windshield. Originally, I had bought a 10-inch windshield for this bike, but unfortunately with the handguards, it was hitting. So we swapped out and did a 6-inch windshield instead, and I can confidently say, since I've ridden with the stock windshield and now the Clockwork 6-inch one, that the Clockworks does make a difference. And at first I wasn't sure about the wind, but I can confidently say after going through a ton of bugs with the stock one and then with the Clockworks, it does make a difference. I got way less bugs on my helmet, and I can definitely tell that it helps. Personally, I'd like to see an 8-inch come out. Actually, I know that it's going to come out. Sorry, Brian and Vanessa, for telling the world that right now. But that should be out soon, and once that is out, I will be putting an 8-inch on here. I would like just a little bit more clearance for my helmet because I feel like the wind is still hitting me just a little too much. But definitely an upgrade that I think is worth the money. So another thing I left stock right out of the gate on this bike was the suspension. A lot of people, when they buy new motorcycles, that's one of the first things they change. Usually exhaust and suspension and your handlebars. I love the suspension stock because I have ridden Softails before, and I was actually pretty impressed with the stock suspension. So that isn't something that I wanted to prioritize right out of the gate. So far, I've had 12,000 miles on this bike, and I really don't have that many qualms with the suspension. So if you were kind of on a budget and you have to debate upon a couple things, I would definitely keep the stock suspension. I don't mind it at all. I think it's something that I'm definitely going to eventually upgrade, but for now, it's fine. Next, we'll go ahead and talk about wheel and tire. I didn't want to powder coat the wheels at first. I just wanted to ride my bike, but that is something I do plan on doing eventually. I would like to powder coat them black. But I did switch out already, as y'all can see, to the Arlen Ness big jagged brake rotors, front and rear. I had these on my Dyna and I absolutely loved them. So this was something that I had to have right out of the gate for this bike. As far as stopping power goes, you do notice a difference over the stock rotors for sure. And they just look badass. So, I mean, it's kind of a win-win in my opinion. Now, as far as tires go, I did already switch out my Michelin Scorchers, which is the factory tire that comes on the ST. I got about 9,000 miles out of that tire. Probably could have done 2,000 if I really wanted to push it, but I had an opportunity to get a good deal on a set of Dunlop American Elites. So I just went ahead and swapped out the front and the rear so that they were matching. I liked the Michelin Scorchers, but unfortunately, whenever I had the opportunity to put the Elites on, I didn't have the opportunity to just get a rear scorcher for the same deal. So I figured, why not just get these tires put on and just have longer life longevity out of the tires. So yeah, we'll see how I like the Elites. I'm not used to running a harder compound tire, but so far for just ripping down the highway, they've been really great and I've liked them. They've gripped really well. On my Dyna, I ran Dunlop K591s on the rear, and that was a really sticky tire and I liked it. So obviously a harder compound tire, you should be getting more mileage out of it, so we'll see how it goes. So far I don't have any issues with the American Elites. I will be doing tons of touring riding soon, so I felt like the American Elites were a good choice for me personally. So let's talk about lighting and other accessories that I've done to this bike. One of the biggest mistakes right out of the gate, let's just talk about it, is I left the headlight stock. I have not changed out my headlight and I really regret that. I regretted that basically within the first week of owning this bike, and I just haven't had the opportunity to dive in and consider different headlight options. Well, I just haven't decided on what I want. I've been looking into the Baja Designs LP4, as well as a Custom Dynamics headlight. There's a few out there that I'm considering, but I just don't like the stock headlight. I don't think it's bright whatsoever. There's been numerous times now where I've been riding at night and I've had to stop because I just can't see on the interstate and I don't want to smack a deer or something else. So definitely disappointed in the stock headlight, but that's what the aftermarket world is for. I do have the Rockford Fosgate audio kit. I'll be honest, I can't hear this thing over 60 miles an hour. So to me, this is kind of an around town cruiser thing. I really don't use them if I'm on the interstate for hours. I'll just turn my Lexan on my helmet and just jam out. I do love listening to music. Like I mentioned, whenever I first rode the Lowrider ST with Harley about a year and a half ago when they first released the bike. But yeah. Rockford Fosgate makes awesome stuff, and I do think that this is a cool audio kit depending on how you like to ride. But personally for me, it just isn't loud enough on the interstate, especially with the 2-into-1 exhaust. And then here on the sides, I did do the Harley-Davidson smoke turn signal inserts. I don't like having orange stuff on my bike, which is why I also got rid of the bullet turn signals on the back. And I went with a Lowrider S style taillight setup. I have a Custom Dynamics integrated smoked taillight. So my turn signals are built into that. And then I got a base plate from Moons because it's all black, so it matches the bike. And then lastly, on the rear here, I did go with a Custom Dynamics license plate. It's a laid back license plate, which I really like. On my Dyna, I ran a Kiriakin one, but unfortunately everyone was sold out of those whenever I was getting all the parts together to build this bike out. So the Custom Dynamics one works. It just doesn't have a top plate on it to hold your license plate in, which isn't the end of the world, but it does look a little bit cleaner. Some of y'all probably picked up that I've been reading a parts list off my phone, so I make sure I don't forget anything to tell y'all about. And I'm using my Rockform phone mount. I'm personally not a really big fan of having anything on my handlebars. I love having a clean cockpit, so to speak. So I just like that I'm able to take this off really quickly. It's just a Ram Tough Claw and an arm, and then just the little Rockform universal ball mount, which is awesome. And then when I don't want this on here, I just throw it in my bags, which is great. So let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, because I'm sure a lot of y'all are wondering why I took the hard bags off. That's a really popular question I get on social media about this bike. Honestly, I love having the outer pockets. Like, if I'm just gonna give you a simple answer, it's the outer pockets for me. I love having easy access to certain items on my bike. I loved how my dyno was set up. There's a lot of things that I felt I did right with that bike to get it touring ready. And having the leather pros on it was one of those things. And unfortunately, I don't feel that the hard bags that this bike comes with just store enough stuff, does that make sense? For the way that I ride my bike and travel across the country. I do use this bike for work. I am a photographer, so I do carry camera gear with me. And obviously I have this YouTube channel. I do video work as well. I do have a lot of things that I need to carry. And I typically use my bags specifically just for clothing items and some tools. Everything else kind of goes up here, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, I love Leather Pros, and unfortunately the hard bags just weren't going to do it for me. So I switched out to these, and other than that, I also went with a Harley-Davidson detachable Sissy bar. Now this Sissy bar is a quick detach, and I did get all of the right hardware and whatnot so that it will work with the Leather Pros. And if I line these up correctly, it snaps right in. And one of the things I should have shown y'all before I put this on here actually was I actually got the Harley-Davidson lock on here, which is just a nice little deterrent so no one wants to come up and jack my stuff right off my bike, even with the Sissy bar on. It does have a key, which is convenient. And then of course, had to go with a new Guerilla Momentum Vagabond luggage bag, which I got from J&P Cycles. I had one of these for my dyno too. This is a brand new one though. I love this bag. Honestly, if you needed to keep the hard bags just for financial purposes and you don't have the money to try and sell those and put Leather Pros on, this bag rules. Like I said, I carry a lot of stuff because this is kind of a work vehicle for me, but I can put this bag on any bike. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you've probably seen me take it to Arkansas for those work trips, and this thing's just great. It has all the compartments. I think I even got pickles in this little pouch right now. I do. Catch me outside with all the snacks, fam. Now, this bike, unfortunately, with the Sissy bar I chose, it's not high enough for me to strap all the straps on securely. So I do have to kind of crisscross them back here and do some extra mounting on the bottom of this luggage rack and whatnot, but it works for now. My next step is I'd like to build a Pelican case out for my camera gear on the back and swap from having all of my camping gear here and some dry bags to putting it up here. But I would just like a more secure way to kind of carry my camera gear. I know a lot of people build Pelican cases just because it's an affordable way to have a tour pack, but I really need it for camera gear and doing work stuff. But yeah, that is Waylon, my 2023 Lowrider ST. Almost forgot to tell y'all about my San Diego Customs bar bag that I bought. I did have a smaller bar bag on my bike, but honestly, I didn't really like it. I did have a Harley-Davidson one on there, and unfortunately, it was just too small for me. Some people, that'll work well for them, but I like what I like. I like things to have a home and for things to be exactly how I like them. So what's nice about this bag is it does have 3 different compartments in it, which I do really like. Obviously insurance and all the other things you can imagine are in a bar bag. Currently just has tampons and a lighter in it right now, nothing too crazy, but and a puck, and a kickstand puck. All right, we got some trinkets in here. But yeah, I really like this bag, and I just put it between my fairing and my handlebars since I do have pullbacks. It is impossible, for lack of better words, to put it on the front side of my bars, but that's okay. There's plenty of space between my bars and the fairing, so it fills in that area nicely. Now there are a few more things that I'd really like to do to this bike. I would like to eventually install lowers on it. If you watched my ST review video that I did with Harley-Davidson when they first launched this bike about a year and a half ago, I mentioned that I would love to see an option for lowers available for this bike. The reason I haven't bought those yet is because 1, I didn't really feel like it was a necessity right out of the gate. And 2, I'm waiting to see what the aftermarket world does. I don't know how I feel about the current options for front turn signals if you put the lowers on that are available right now. I'd really like to see some type of turn signal insert to kind of go into some of these little inlets here in this front vent. There's actually like a little cusp right here inside, like a little divot, and I feel like a company could make something to go in there, and it could be, in a sense, wired into some of this same harness that these are. I think I used my words correctly there. Motorcycle parts and stuff. The other things I'd like to do to the front Like I mentioned earlier, I'd like to powder coat the wheels this winter. I'd like to add a crash bar up front and on the rear. I am gonna go probably with a Bung King one, but I need to see what other options are available. But when I think of crash bars, Bung King's my go-to in my brain. So that'll probably come next. Honestly, for me, adding crash bars to my bike is more so for GoPro mounting. Like I said, I use this bike for work. So to me, I think it just is another cool opportunity of a place to put a GoPro. Not a big deal. And yeah, it would be nice if I happen to drop this bike to not mess it up, but luckily I don't do that too often. Another popular question that I've been getting is, am I gonna paint this bike? Because my Sportster is painted and my Dyna's painted too. Both have pretty cool panel paint jobs on them, and the easy answer is no, I'm not planning on painting this bike. And there's a few reasons for that. One is because paint's expensive, and your bike's down while it's getting painted. The reason my Dyna got painted is because the motor blew up and it had downtime for months, so it was an easy time to get it painted. Two, once you get your bike painted, you're always worried about messing it up, and my Dyna got tons of rock chips in it, so I just don't like the anxiety that comes with having a custom paint job. I guess it's the spark-noted version of that story. And lastly, you know, I just don't really like how easily identifiable it makes me. That's kind of the unfortunate part of having a presence on social media and traveling solo, is that if your bike's easily identifiable, it's another way people can recognize you. And I just really like to fly under the radar when I travel solo and just do my own thing, which is exactly why I bought a black motorcycle. And I have had people already recognize this bike and pick it out of a crowd during the Harley-Davidson 120 event. So I once saw it in the sea of bikes on the bridge, which is cool. I'm glad that y'all pay attention. But yeah, I don't think I'll be doing any crazy paint jobs on this one, which is okay with me. And also, if I do, I think I'll just stick to kind of like a simple pinstriping scheme, kind of to just reflect like the old school FXR kind of paint jobs, kind of pay homage to that, and just do some outlining and whatnot. But for now, it's not a big priority. But yeah, that is everything I've done to this bike thus far. And like I said, I picked this bike up exactly how it sits. So I put 12,000 miles on all of this stuff, and I am so stoked on all of my choices. I say I'm a good parts picker outer, not so much a good installer. So thank you, Cowboy Harley, for handling the hard stuff. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Nate, for doing such a good job working on my bike, buddy. That's it for this little build spec video. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below about this bike. There is a blog on my website. It's ridetofood.com, and you can check out motorcycle builds on there, and it is listed. And you can get a full blog about my Sportster, my Dyna, all my bikes. So if you have any questions, check there first, then drop it in the comments below. But until the next one, I'll see you on the road. Later, y'all.